Good morning and afternoon, depending on what time zone you're tuning in from. Thank you so much for joining us for our weekly office hours. I'm George Soto, one of the co-founders here at AssetMule, joined by my actually, Justin, I was going to say Justin. I was like joined by Justin. Anyways, joined by. I was going to maybe call you a jewel by my jewel, an awesome co-founder, Justin Dorfman, who's also CEO. So that means you'll have to get some, what is it, the hair stuff later.
I think the hair is thinning out, you
Yeah,
know,
something like that. But
got
anyways,
a couple grays going on the
or
sides.
if you combat it with meditation and qigong.
I
Uh,
try, man. I try. Maybe it's the reason why I still have some hair.
But for all of y'all tuning in today, if this is your first time, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your not first time, like you come a couple times or that you're constantly tuning in, thank you so much for doing so. Today we're going to dive into a pretty cool topic that I'm pretty stoked about, and that is the idea of providing 5 design tips to up level your AssetMule assets. And Justin's been doing this kind of work not only as a product marketing leader for the last year, or several years, I should say, and been in the last almost 2 years here at AssetMule, but he's been a salesperson for over a decade and a half, also using these things and building them. So he's going to today provide some pretty awesome insights and some best practices. If you do have any questions or comments or anything like that, go ahead and put them in the comment section. You're probably watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube. And so I'll be monitoring the comments section throughout this session today, and then we'll get to those comments unless it's like super urgent. And if it is, let us know. I know we have a couple folks who are tuning in, um, who wanted to ask some questions. So for you folks out there who are doing so, like, do put those in there as well, and we'll get to them. Again, if it is urgent, just let us know, hey, this is an urgent question. We'll get to it. Otherwise, we'll get it to it in at the Q&A section here towards the end. So without further ado, Justin, why don't you bestow your wisdom and design prowess on us
Yeah,
here.
it's funny because the reason why we built AssetMule, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why is that I'm not a designer and I'm not very good at design. So I wanted a tool that I could use as a former product marketer and salesperson that found myself creating a lot of assets and struggling to do so. I wanted a tool that would enable me to do it right without having to bring on designers and wait, the weeks and sometimes spend the thousands of dollars that it could cost to get that type of support, right? So at this point, I think with AssetMule, I've probably used the product to create, I don't know, maybe over 1,000 assets at this point, maybe over the last year, right, George? Like every day I'm creating a bunch of assets, I'm testing things out or helping customers. And what's really cool is I've actually been surprised at the quality of the design that I've been able to achieve with AssetMule. It's really exciting when you use your product to solve your own problem and then you see, wow, there's no way I would have been able to do this prior to using AssetMule and create something of such high design quality. And in sort of using the tool, there are a couple of tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Some might be obvious to you guys. We try and make the product as intuitive as possible. But other things might be a little bit more nuanced. So we thought it would be a really great opportunity to just do a session like this where I can go through sort of maybe the 5 most common tips and tools that I use when I'm designing assets in AssetMule that could help you guys as well create very high quality assets without needing to bring in designers. So that's the topic of today. And my whole point here is if I can do it, anybody can, because again, I really do not come from a design background. George knows this. When I'm not using AssetMule to create other types of assets like images for a blog post or for a video, I'm always asking him to do it because I cannot do it. But when it comes to sales assets, now that I have AssetMule, I can. So let's dive in, and I'll start with the first tip in a second here. So I'm going to share my screen. And I always like to do this before going into the topic of the day, just for any of those people out there that are new to AssetMule and need a little bit of an introduction. Essentially, what our product does is it makes it super quick and easy for product marketers and sales reps to create personalized, interactive, and trackable sales assets. And you'll see here from the get-go, we have this library of templates that you can use, from one pagers to case studies and competitive pages and decks and proposals. And we're constantly building out our library of templates that you can use to build on top of, add your brand colors, your fonts, your content to, and have these assets available for your team in minutes. And then we also have the ability to create templates from scratch, right? Where you can pull in sections, pull in components, pull in your content, and almost like Lego blocks, pull these pieces together without having to design the individual elements like pricing tiers and things like that. These are all pre-designed components that you can use as you're building your own templates. But again, the topic for today is the design tips. So I'm going to, let's say that I'm building a one-pager with video. So I'm going to copy this template here, and now I'll go through sort of the 5 tips that I have for today. And the first tip starts with this concept of a theme in the AssetMule. So when you set up your AssetMule account, you can set up your brand theme. And your brand theme is essentially your colors and fonts that you're going to be applying to your templates and your assets in the AssetMule to make them on brand. And as part of the onboarding process, you actually set up your theme, but you can also do it here as well. And you'll see that the way that it works, we try and make it super easy, where you can just put in your website URL and we can give you a base theme to start building on top of. So the example that I'm going to give today is that I'm Gong. So I'm going to put gong.io here, and I'm going to click create theme, and you'll see just in a matter of seconds here, now we have a relatively basic but on brand one pager pulling in Gong's colors from the website. Now, most people that I've seen stop here, right? They sort of just use the theme as it's generated by AssetMule. But the first tip that I wanted to give you guys today is the ability to actually customize this theme a little bit, edit it further, and make it a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more on brand, which can actually go a long way to increasing the level of design quality of your templates. And the way that you do that is by going to the theme section of your AssetMule account. And now you'll see this new theme that you created here, gong.io. And what you have the ability to do here is edit it, right? And the first step here is the ability to actually add a couple more colors to your palette. So actually with Gong, we pulled actually a pretty nice set of colors. We have 4 colors here. A lot of the time you'll see we'll pull 3 colors, and there might be other accent colors and things that you want to add in here. So you can easily do that just by clicking add color and then adding in the code for the color that you want to add here. I'm actually going to leave it as white, but again, you can do anything here to add those additional colors to your palette. And then the next step is creating what we call brand styles. And you actually can create 5 of these brand styles for your brand. And these are essentially background colors, corresponding font colors, and corresponding accent colors that you can add here. And generally, this is where the tip starts here, where once you have a couple of these colors, you can start to make it a little bit more sophisticated and on brand. So what I'm going to do for Gong, I went to their website earlier and I looked at how they sort of apply background colors and font colors and so on. And I'm going to try and make it a little bit more on brand by adding this sort of purple color to the font color, and then pulling in the 3 different colors that we have here, the sort of reddish pink, bluish purple, and purple here as the accent colors. And then for the second color here, I'm going to use this color as the background color, same font color, pull in those accent colors. I'm going to go again here. Now I'm going to do the reddish color or the pinkish color. I'm a little colorblind here, which probably leads to my design issues here. But bear with me as I add white here as the fonts and the accent colors. Here, this looks pretty good with I'm just making sure it pulled in the right stuff here, but as the accent colors. And then last one again looks pretty good. So now you can see a much more sophisticated set of styles that I'm going to be able to pull in my templates, and I'll show you that in a second. But before I do that, maybe the next step is actually pulling in some fonts here beyond what we've been able to pull in from AssetMule. If I remember correctly, with Gong, they might use we use Google fonts here, and they might use Open Sans. I don't quite remember here as the sort of base fonts, but their header font is a custom fonts. So if you want to set that up for your own account, if you have custom fonts for one or both of these, all you have to do is reach out to us at support@assetmule.ai or chat with us using our intercom chatbot here, and we can get that set up for you. We can upload it in the background. And I've actually done that for Gong, a different sort of Gong theme that I've set up here. And then finally, give it a name so that you can find it, especially if you're building multiple themes. So I'm not actually going to do that here because I want to show you the difference between the starting theme that I had and then the Gong theme that I've already set up in the accounts, where I've already done these background styles, right? And I've put in the custom font and so on. And you can see that actually here, the Gong theme that I've already set up here. But for now, let's go back to that template so we can see the difference here, right? So again, when I did the gong.io, this is what it looked like. And now after adding those additional colors, those styles, and the custom fonts, choosing Gong, you'll already see the level of design quality that is increased here, right? With the accent colors and so on, the custom fonts, and the application of font colors and accent colors here. So that's the first tip, is take the additional minute or two it takes to really adapt that theme from the base theme that was created from the URL, and it can go a really, really long way. The second tip that I'm going to give you guys here is this idea of sections and the section settings. So when it comes to a template in AssetMule and an asset in AssetMule, it's basically a combination of sections. So we've got this header section, we've got this section here with the value statement and the video, we've got the section down here with the customer logos, and on the right-hand side of each section, you'll find the section settings, right? This includes the ability to move sections down, move sections up, delete sections, even add new sections, as you'll see here, right? But also these section settings that you can pull up here that allow you to do a couple of different things. So first of all, it allows you to change the colors of those sections based on those styles that we just defined in the themes, right? But also the ability to increase and decrease padding, top, bottom padding, horizontal padding as well, right? And again, these are very simple features that can go a long way in really making your templates look and your assets look really, really nice. In fact, you'll see with these base templates that I've created here that you're pulling from the library, I've done that, right? By default, it's usually 60 top padding, 60 bottom padding. I've given it a little bit more space with this setup where we've got the value statement or the paragraph component and the video component where I've made it 100. When we're using two sections here, I've sort of decreased the bottom padding, so it kind of makes this sort of title closer to the logos, right? You'll see I've done 40 padding here and then 100 at the bottom. So playing around with these section settings and making it look a little nicer here instead of the default 60-60 is another really great tip here that I use all the time to up level the design of my templates and my assets. So that's the second tip that I have here today, is playing around with those section settings to adapt some of that spacing and the colors. And actually, the third tip that I have here today is in the section settings, and that's the ability to add background images. So beyond these styles that you can pull into sections, we also have the ability to upload and apply background images that can go a really, really long way in upleveling your design. And all you have to do here is click Use Background Image and then upload the background image that you want to use. And when it comes to Gong, what I found was on their LinkedIn, I found this really cool background image that they they had here that I wanted to use for that header section. And in fact, I was able to find it on by searching gong.io background images on Google and then downloading it, saving it to my desktop. And now that I've done that, I can upload it here. Actually, these are the ones that I use usually for AssetMule, but let's go back to my desktop. You'll see it here. And just by adding it here, you'll see how that really levels up the design here, right? Super easy to do. You may need a designer to help you create those background images, but once you have them, they're good to go. I usually have my co-founders, George and Dane, for that. They create some really nice background images that I can pull in here for our own brand. But yeah, you'll see how, that little addition here really takes things to the next level when it comes to design. So that's the third tip, is background images. The fourth tip that we have for today is changing some of the colors. So we did define a default font color that gets applied based on a certain style background, right? But you can also use your color palette that you define in the themes section, in that step, right? That first step where we added some additional colors. You can use that as well to adjust some of the coloring here. And I see this with a lot of brands out there, that they like to do some highlight colors, right? So what I would do here is maybe I write a value statement and there's something I want to highlight here. Now I can pull in, let's say, that pinkish red, or coral color maybe is what it's called, right? I don't know. Again, you'll see my design shortfallings here, but it really, by doing this can really add a new element of flavor to your design here. So that's really the fourth tip here, is playing around with the font colors. And also beyond colors, you'll see here the ability to adjust the weight as well, use italics here, as well as the size of your font. So really leaning in on those text editor features here that we have to adapt to your brand quality here. And then the next tip that I want to give here is the component settings. So this is actually, I realized I don't even know if that was a tip that I was going to give. So that's an extra bonus tip here. But the next thing I want to talk about are component settings. Now, this is a really important sort of foundational tip, very similar to the section settings. So within sections, we have this concept of components. And, you'll see an icon on the left-hand side that indicates those components. So this particular component is what we call our personalized logo components. And it's that logo for logo setup. But you'll see also here the text or the paragraph component, right? Or the video component. So a really great tip is leveraging those component settings, much like we leverage the section settings to make some adjustments. So a good example here is maybe I add in the Gong logo. And again, I can do that either by uploading or by just putting in a URL and getting logos, fetching logos that I can just pull in here. And then let's say I'm building this as Gong for AssetMule, right? I'm selling to AssetMule. What you may find often is a mismatch in those logos. Maybe that mismatch is a mismatch in size, as we see here, but it might also be a mismatch in color. And I'll give you both examples. But starting with the size, so what you'll want to do is click on the icon for that component to pull up the component settings. And then here you can make adjustments to those the content that's in those components. So I may want to reduce the right logo to 40. So it's much more in line in terms of size. But another example might be a mismatch in color, right? Here, luckily with AssetMule, we have white colors and we can choose from that. But there's other examples where you might not have that, right? And again, what you can do is use the style to invert the colors. Now, what you'll see here is now the Gong one is off. So what I could do here is make Gong the colored option as well. And because we're inverting both of these, now it's more matched, right? So just playing around with those component settings, adjusting the size of the logos in this case, playing around with the colors, just in a matter of seconds, you can have something that could take you a lot longer, or that you might have to reach out to a designer in a sort of more traditional sense to help you get a better logo, you can just do here by playing around with the logo settings here. And then, so that was the fifth tip, but the final tip that I'll give here, since I mentioned the sort of text colors as kind of an additional one, is I like to lean on interactive components to bring in some flavor and some design into the asset. And a good example here is bringing a video. So, I found this Gong product overview video on YouTube. So just by grabbing in the URL here, and then adding it into that video component here, now it brings some flavor to my design, right? I'm pulling in all these brand elements that Gong already has applied to that video to give my template, in this case, more flavor, right? But you can go beyond pulling in videos, right? Another great thing is pulling in interactive demos. Now, in this particular template, I don't have an interactive demo, but what I can do is delete some sections here. So instead, I have feature highlights with images. So I'm going to delete all those sections here that you see. And instead, I'm going to add a new section where I'm going to add a one column, and I'm going to choose the story lane component here, because I know that Gong uses story lane. I saw on gong.io. I saw that they have where is it here? A platform overview where they have a story lane demo, and I was able to capture that demo. And the way that it works in AssetMule is you can just put in a URL to that demo, right? The story lane sharing link. And now I've saved it as a snippet in our case, but you can see, again, it pulls in a lot of flavor. And again, I'm leaning on Gong's own design elements that they've built into that demo to add a design flair to my template that I have here. So that's the 5, actually 6 tips for today. And just to step through them again, and again, restating here, I'm no designer, right? But you saw just in a matter of seconds, I was really able to build something that looks quite good, right? Again, a professional designer, there might be some customization and definitely a lot that they bring to the table. But as somebody that comes from a sales and product marketing background that literally has no design skill or even instinct, right? Like, you should see the terrible quality of stuff that I build in like Google Slides and Google Docs and so on. Being able to do this is quite an achievement. And the way that I was able to do it was creating the Gong theme, going to the themes section, adding more flavor to that theme by adding additional colors, setting those themes up here with the background, or the styles with the background colors, the font colors. So that was the first tip. The second tip was going into the section settings and being able to adapt those styles by section, adjust padding. The third tip was being able to upload a background image to go beyond even those styles to something a little bit more sophisticated and interesting. The fourth tip was then using those themes as well, and the colors that I put in there to, adjust and apply colors to our fonts, as well as increasing sizes and the style of those fonts. The fifth tip was the component settings. And the example here was being able to adjust the logo sizes and the style, inverting the colors of those logos so that they match. And the extra tip that we had here today was adding interactive elements like videos and interactive demos to your templates and your assets so that you can bring in the design elements that are integrated into those interactive elements into your templates and assets. So I'm going to pause here for questions. Hopefully that was useful for today, and that you're leaving with some actionable tips that you can use to get your AssetMule assets to the next level.
All right, awesome. Well, Justin, a couple of questions have come in here. I somewhat answered here for Stacy and in the comments there, but
yep. Yeah, you answered the first one right. It looks like that you can have multiple themes. You'll see actually in our accounts. That was the question, right?
Yeah, maybe you can just unpack that a little bit so
yeah.
Stacy can kind of get the visual.
Yeah, let me share. Yeah, let me share my screen again. You'll see like we're a kind of unique situation where this is our tool. We're demoing it all the time. We're building examples. So we have many, many different themes actually that you can see there, right? In our menu. I don't necessarily think you'll have this many, but you can create as many themes as you want. And examples that we have are, yeah, different product lines or brands under one umbrella that you might want to have multiple themes for. There's also the example of creating collaborative content with partners for partner marketing, where you may want to use their colors in your template, or a combination of your colors and their colors, right? And then a third example that we've actually seen, which is kind of a really interesting one, is for ABM or any sort of account-based strategy. Instead of using your colors, why not use their colors, right? So that the content that you're sending to them is highly personalized and customized for them, to the point of it even being on brand for them, right? If the goal again is for that champion to share it internally to their team, and sell your solution on their behalf, a familiar set of colors and fonts and so on could be a great way to do that. So yeah, short answer is absolutely yes, you can have multiple themes.
Awesome.
Second question here is, when you share assets, can you gate them in any way? Not today. This is a feature that we've been asked, and one that we do plan to build in the future. We're thinking about various different ways to do that. Maybe you can password protect is one example. Maybe you can gate by domain, right? So that anybody with that domain can access that asset, or maybe you can gate by specific email addresses, right? That anybody with those that you've given access to can access the asset. So not today, but it is something that we're thinking about. We've heard that request a few times, so it's something that is top of mind.
Yeah.
Are there any pre-built analytics within your platform, or would you have to add Google Analytics? Great question. We do have pre-built analytics. We're constantly building it out. We do also have customers that are integrating Google Analytics tracking codes as well. But let me show you our pre-built analytics. So when you save when you sort of create assets from your templates, and when you create assets from your templates and you share them out there with your prospects, we track the views, but also all the interactions that happen on that page. So I'll give you an example here. Let's find a good example. Maybe our professional services one pager. So at a very high level, you'll see the number of views. We've had 27 views of this asset from 17 different viewers, but also you can then go to the stats page and you can see what those viewers did. You can see, where they viewed it from, that they viewed it, and then also those interactions that they had with the asset. Like in this case, they clicked on the video, right? In the future, we'd also like to add who viewed the asset. Right now, we have a unique identifier, and we found that our customers, generally speaking, can kind of deduct who the person is based on, again, where they're located and so on. But we do have plans to add person level data as well. And that's actually, it could be tied in a way to that gating or access feature that somebody else asked about. Once we have that element, we'd be able to sort of tie viewers to, if somebody's putting it in their email address to view a asset, we'll be able to track that. But we're also looking for other ways where you don't have to necessarily gate an asset to capture that information, because in certain cases like outbound, you don't want to add that friction of a gate in front of an asset.
Yeah, and Stacy, I had a question. What kind of gating are you looking at, or what comes to mind? So I'll just give Stacy a quick second to answer if you got this question. Yeah, and also see it. I see the comment, loving it for ABM. Absolutely.
I know we're almost at time here, for the Google Analytics tracking, Julia, that's something we can take offline. At a very, very high level, you could add our embed code component, which is the same component that we use to bring in interactive demos and calendars. And you can basically add a tracking code to that, and then make that component invisible, so that they don't see it on there, but the tracking code is embedded in the asset. and tracking not just in our system, but also in your Google Analytics. There are other ways that our customers have done that as well that we can also speak to. If you'd like, feel free to DM George or myself, and we can schedule some time to chat
Okay.
about that.
Got it. So we got another comment. Yeah, perfect. Stacy just asked if we could
So we want to use it for customer success. So some private information would be shared for our champions. So sharing internally with others, to share internally with, yeah, makes total sense. So AssetMule, the great thing is it's used for such a wide variety of use cases. So anything from outbound, where you wouldn't want to gate assets because any friction that you add to that process of viewing the asset could diminish your engagement and conversion rate, to post sale, right? And anywhere in between. Proposals is another example where you might want to gate the information so that because there's pricing information that might be personalized and specific to that client, right? So yeah, I think having some sort of gating mechanism, and it said that you mentioned domain would be ideal, but password would also be fine too. So maybe it's a multi option, right? You can choose password, you can choose domain, you can choose by certain viewers, and so on. Again, something that we're exploring, but makes a lot of sense for the use cases you mentioned.
Awesome. I know we're over time here, but if we do have any other questions, Stacy, Julia, thank you so much for your questions. We'll hang tight here for a minute. But really, really appreciate your feedback here.
And just one note, as we're wrapping up here, we do these office hours on specific topics. Like today was on design. I think last week we did one. What did we do last week? I forget now. On a new feature, our buyer's journey new feature. We've done ones on our outbound templates or event follow-up. So all these different topics, and we like to make these office hours topical based rather than a repetitive demo of AssetMule. We just think it's more valuable, especially for existing customers that like to join these as well. But if you do want a demo of AssetMule, you just want sort of a high level walkthrough, reach out to George or reach out to myself. DM us on LinkedIn, or just reach out to us by email, george@assetmule.ai or justin@assetmule.ai. And we're more than happy to schedule some time to walk you through a high level walkthrough and also dive into your specific use cases. But also feel free to join future office hours, because again, we try and keep these topics fresh. It's not a general demo every time. It's really topic based. And we try and think about what the most relevant and interesting topics are based on what we're hearing from customers out there.
Awesome. This is perfect, Stacy. Thank you so much. And Julia, again, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to learn more about AssetMule. And just one thing that I wanted to mention, as you can tell, we're pretty hands-on. So if you do need any help, signing up to the product is completely free and self-serve. But if you do have any questions or need any help going through the product or setting some stuff up, please again reach out to us outside of just the demo that Justin mentioned. But I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in here today, tuning in from LinkedIn or YouTube, or maybe you're looking through both. As Justin mentioned, we do these every Wednesday for the most part. There's probably going to be some exceptions around holidays and so on. But otherwise, we do them every Wednesday. And if you are a existing AssetMule user, thank you so much for giving Asset a shot and being a user. If you're interested and are just kind of learning, go ahead and sign up. Again, it's free. There's a free forever plan. It's hopefully self-serve, so you can get started as quickly as possible and kick the tires on it. If you do, again, have any questions about the product, do let us know. If you're not following us on LinkedIn or YouTube, go ahead and, if you like the content, of course, go ahead and follow us or subscribe if you're on YouTube. And without further ado, have a wonderful day, everyone.